Good morning, everyone. I am Melody, and this is Bake a Leg and Let's Dig It Homestead. I am going to come at you today with a video, but let me formally introduce myself to some new subscribers. I am in Pennsylvania. This is a new homestead. I wanted to talk about how did my garden hold up. We're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of me building this garden. So, let me give you a little bit of a look. I'm only going to focus really on the beds right now, and if you hear birds chirping, it's because it's early in the morning here. So this is my trellis that I had the red noodle beans on last year. These are 8 beds, 8 by 4 if I'm not mistaken. And how do I think my garden did? Like I said, if you're new here, hello, welcome to my channel. I built this as soon as I moved here, by myself to boot. So the ground was tilled, and then I raked it for about 2 weeks. I put down fabric cloth, as you can see it right there, and probably about 25 bags of all organic mulch. I'm an organic gardener. I don't use pesticides or anything of that nature. I do a lot of gardening in pots, beds. I have in-grounds, and then I have a side garden, but we'll get into that another time. I want to just talk about how did my garden hold up after I built it alone, by myself. Have I mentioned that? Because boy, oh boy, what a job that was. Okay, so when you build a new garden, you have to expect it's going to shift and it's going to settle. That's what I'm noticing. Now, a lot of the weed cover, I guess is what you call it, see, is coming up. It's very visible. That's because of all the rain and the snow that we had here. It is a beautiful day in the neighborhood today. Whew. I think we're supposed to get a thunderstorm maybe later, but this is Sunday morning. I'm sorry, Saturday morning. Let me get my facts straight. Saturday morning. So what have I noticed after I thoroughly examined it in order to do this video? And what type of gardening do I do? I am a square foot gardener, and I am a high impact gardener. What does that mean exactly? When you have spacing on the back of the package, I don't space like that whatsoever. If you aren't new here, you saw I had 3 beds of tomatoes last year. Let me tell you, I had them planted very close together. They did well amongst 6 hurricanes, I think they were. The storms were trying to blow them out of the bed, but they technically did survive. So, besides the weed cover right here that's showing, because I said this was 25 bags of mulch, I'm going to have to do, this is all organic mulch, it's not the rubber mulch. I'm going to have to probably put more mulch down, but I'm just not sure if I want to put more weed cover down and then go over it with mulch. But that's flaw number 1 that I did notice. Okay. Now, you may not be able to see it with the eye if you look at the second bed that is right there. It's kind of not exactly lined up and even like they were because of the factor the ground sinks. So this one bed shifted a little bit this way. Like I said, you probably won't be able to see it with the eye because it looks still kind of lined up, but I'm a little OCD, so you can see that. At least I can. And then this bed back here definitely shifted. Let's look at it from the front here. There's the bed. There's the other side. Looks kind of normal on this side. But this is how you can tell. Sorry about my shadow. It's sunny. I wanted to redo this because I tried to do this yesterday. The bed is on an angle. You can see how it's sunk down there. This part right here that you're looking at shifted a little bit this way. So to me, it's a little cockeyed, but then again, you may not be able to see that on film or anything like that. So only 2 beds I can see absolutely sunk down. Could usually tell by where the screws are. Oops, sorry. Where the screws are. It just went down a little bit that way. There's not really much you can do about that. When you do a new build, keep that in mind. The ground has to settle. It will shift. Water will play a role in that. So honestly, that's the weed tarp that was put down right here. That's coming up. That one shifted towards the back, which is no big deal. And that one over there that has some kohlrabi in it shifted just a little bit. This is the one that's a little bit more noticeable, especially to me out here. The other thing that transpired, I had about 8 to 10 inches of leaves on top of the bed for the winter time, and I took off a lot that didn't break down. These are just the bottom of the stems on leaves. I can't help the birds this morning. But can you see over there? It dropped. The soil dropped big time. This is horticultural soil from a farm purchased by my friend as a Christmas gift for not this last Christmas, the Christmas before. Very expensive. And I asked them multiple times, does it have any type of animal, compost, whatever, inside of it? And they said, no, you're going to have to mend this soil. I did just that. If you missed my garden season last year, there are some up there. I had 3 phone problems because of the storms and the heat here last year. So these beds all need to be topped off. Let me get you closer. So you can see where those 2 screws are. That's how far down the soil sunk. So I still have some outside the fence. My son is supposed to come here today to top all the beds off. It was like in the 70s yesterday here. And I also, like I said, took off a lot of the leaves and only left what was broken down on top of there. I think I OD'd on the leaves. But, each bed will get topped off with more soil, obviously. But overall, it did fairly well with sinking and adjusting and stuff like that. This is the bed that had all the broccoli and cabbages and stuff like that. For winter, it was my first time trying to garden in the winter. Everything did really good until about, when did we have that ice storm? A couple weeks ago. Ice was literally laying on things and it killed a lot. So that's that. But I did clean up the beds. And like I said, I pulled the leaves off. And that's spinach that I'm going to have to harvest today, because my roommate and my friend are going in purchasing a permanent privacy fence. If you're new here, maybe you're confused, but the neighbor over there constantly harasses me. So we are going with a full privacy fence this time to avoid all that nonsense. That basket over there is hanging strawberries. The red pot right there, phenomenal. I put a bunch of different mint in there and it grows like a big strawberry. So randomly on the property, there was just 2. I did build a kitchen garden. I'll show you that on another video. If not, you can go back and look at that. Inexpensive, like a DIY, how to build a garden out of cinder blocks, which was really cheap. I use it for a kitchen herb garden. So that pot there has a lot of mint in it, and it grows like a big strawberry. So there was 2 cinder blocks left on the property, and I just mounted the pots up. Those 2 right there. These are those dollar store stackables with the metal pipe in the middle. They held up. I do have a crack on the bottom of that one, but that's not due to the weather. That's due to landscaper. But yeah, so this bed has been busy all winter growing things. It still has spinach that I'm going to have to harvest because of the factor all these beds are going to get topped off with more of that soil that was purchased from Shady Brook Farm here in Pennsylvania, which is all horticultural. It's very dark, rich soil. If I was to move the leaves back, I'm going to get my hand all dirty, but Listen, let's clear the air about that too. I'm a gardener. I start off well with gloves, and sometimes I don't end well with gloves. But if you just move back a little bit of it, you could just see how dark and rich it was. It showed up here pretty dark. But I protected my beds with lots of leaves. The front bed has lost a lot of soil. I was told that last year when I was building it, to hold on to some of the soil because the beds are going to sink. And they did. So we're just going to top it off with that soil that's out there from left over from the farm. And then I have a video on, it's like a raised bed soil mixture. I did 1 bag per bed. That video is on the channel. It has like alfalfa, all 100% organic stuff in it. And then I did a half a bag of cow for the 8 beds, just a half a bag. So just some sinkage going on. And the dirt going down, so we'll top that off, and then I'll add those 2 bags like I said. This is the mint that's back here, has all different types, and you can see the greens all coming in. I pulled the leaves off. My garlic that was covered with leaves. We don't have trees in the yard. Everything comes from the neighbors, cut down. Well, they severed the top of the tree and everything falls down here. So yeah, so that's the garlic. This was expanded in case you're new here. This is where I grew the watermelon. I do a lot of high impact gardening. Potatoes were down here last year, but I used this whole fence line going all the way down. As you can see, grass and weeds are coming up. My friend is going to till that. But yeah, this is mainly this is the birds doing this. But this video is just to tell you what do I think of this garden that I built. And I think, one, it was my first time building a raised bed garden by myself. I have the square footage of just this garden by itself, which is a pretty decent size. And I put a lot in a bed, my friends. So if you're new here, you'll be able to see that this gardening season, as long as, God willing, everything turns out all right. So, high impact gardening. 5,266 pounds on Shed Wars last year. Can't do Shed Wars this year because I have a lot going on. Okay, I grow in pots. Then I also have in-ground gardens. Let me show you this I was working on. This had a lot of flowers in it last year, but I put a lot of cardboard over this. There's the stack of cardboard that I'm done with to kill the weeds. And I said to my roommate, who loves my flowers, that I think it's a pretty big space. Let me show you. It's a pretty big space, I think, to use just all for flowers. So it's going to get tilled one time only. I did use this last year as well, but this year I'm trying to decide what I want to put in it instead of just zinnias and stuff like that. So my friend's going to till it, and then I might do like market row type style. For an example, you could do something like red cabbage, then leeks, a green cabbage, some type of bunch of onions, because the bugs don't like onions. So that's one way I could use this spot here. I just have things holding it down, the rest of the cardboard. But it's a pretty long space. I can give you measurements and all this at another time. So I do have that. It's an in-ground garden. It's pretty big and grow a lot of food in this. And then I use this whole back, that's chamomile. I use this whole back area to, as you can see, the weeds are coming up. This was the T-post from the original fencing we put in, but now we're going to go with permanent. And it's only going to come out to about where this T-post is. So, I have from there all the way down to there. So this is going to get tilled as well, because I use that as an in-ground garden. And then this spot I used last year for wildflowers, but I somewhat weeded it. You know, my garlic's in there growing. And this spot over here, I did watermelons for small areas. Cantaloupes were not successful. But this is another in-ground spot. And I may have him till that just once because of the factor I had a couple cantaloupes. That was a total epic fail last year. They kind of exploded, and I have a feeling I'm going to have a ton of seeds that pop up just randomly. So they're supposed to go pick up the fencing today, and I asked them to bring over his tiller to do a few spots. So this is off of my garden. So you have that, goes all the way down, but I'm using that area for garlic. Then you have that whole in-ground spot all the way down there, the garden in-ground, and that one as well for in-ground. Outside of the fence is my side garden, my medicinal gardens over there. So I am a very high impact gardener, and I plant a lot very close together, and that is how I was able to grow 525,226 or 66 pounds of food. So back to this garden. It's the 1-year anniversary, my friends. As soon as I got here, I didn't even move in. I focused on building a garden. So that's the only bed that kind of throws me off a little bit, because it's higher there and it gets lower there. It's where the eggplants were last year in half the bed. Rainbow carrots were on the other half. And like I said, I plant a lot of things very close together. Overall, my honest opinion is I think the garden did really, really well on its 1-year anniversary. No major damage. I don't see any bulging. At least not that I looked for, let's say. Nope, just a little. See the third screw right there? I don't know if you could see that. But on that side, you're not seeing the third screw because it shifted. But no bulging or anything. Everything looks really pretty good. And now I just have to harvest this. This is kohlrabi, so that my son can wheelbarrow the soil in today. But I think I should feel proud of myself for building this, because that was hard. This property has never been used. It's never had any pesticides or anything like that on there. So this is the raised bed area with some in-ground gardening that I showed you over there. And the whole length of the fence I used for in-ground gardening. And this one I had last year, but flowers and stuff, and kale. But I put a lot of cardboard on it to kill off the rest of the weeds. That will get tilled. And the side garden is out there, and it's on the side. It's the whole length of the house. It's where our apple trees are. And that's medicinal over there, which I'll give you a full tour another time. So yeah, I might have to just get some more mulch to fill this in, because all the fabric paper is showing, as you can see. And from what I understand, the property next to me is on like a spring. That might be why my zucchini did really good back here. So I did notice when we had those storms, got a little, like a lot of water back here, not a little, a lot. And that's why this bed was probably affected. But overall, besides some minute things, something I can see with my eye, no big deal. I have to tune it out. The soil dropped, but the gentleman at the farm told me it would do that. So I made sure that I held on to some more and just some weed cover. I'm just gonna have to get some more bags of mulch. So that's my overall opinion on the 1-year anniversary to this garden right here, the raised bed garden, on how it did. I think it did really well, really, really well. And I'm looking forward to, let's see, that's my roommate. We have a chicken build that's happening over there. I don't know if you could see the wood, and privacy fencing that's going up. So super excited about that, but more excited that hopefully my son shows up today and wheelbarrows the dirt so that I could go buy the other bags, which I think is called One Care. It's a green bag from Home Depot. I have the video on my channel. Feel free to look that up. 1 bag per bed after it gets topped off with the other soil, the horticultural soil. because you do have to amend it. It's coming from a farm with no animal byproducts in it. And then I do a half a bag of cow per bed. So there is my video on the 1-year anniversary of how did the raised bed gardens do. And I think they did fairly well. Not too shabby. Plus I cleaned up, took off all those leaves, and I just have a few more odds and ends, and I have these up to keep the pups out of here. Other than that, that is my video today on how my garden did after a year and what my opinion is, and I still absolutely love it. And just keep in mind, when you're going to do an in-ground garden, I did have to till the ground. It is going to shift and move. These beds also had a container each of worms put in it, or anything I dig up on the property and the worms come up, I put them right into the beds. And a big reason why I do a lot of my seeds in the cell trays is because the birds here are crazy and they will steal your worms and steal your seeds. So that's that back bed that I said it's a little cockeyed, just a little. But what are you gonna do? So you have these two on the end. These are 8x4s. And then you have, that was hot peppers down at the end. This was sweet peppers that were like the size of my shoulder. If you want to learn how to get your peppers really big, stay tuned. This was tomatoes. That was tomatoes. This was all types of bush beans, rattlesnake pole beans, and Kentucky wonder beans. This entire bed, and red noodle beans went around the trellis. So things will be rearranged. That will be different, but that will be on a different video. I want to say one last thing that I did after taking the leaves off and cleaning this up is I put about a cup to a cup and a half of worm compost in the beds and kind of just mixed it in. I knew it was going to rain that night because I have a lot of worms in these beds. So worm compost I'm also using in my seedling cups. But I'm Melody, and this is Bake a Leg and Let's Dig It, and this is just the raised bed gardening that I do, or the garden that I built. And then you got to see a little bit of the in-ground that I use going around this garden, but there's other areas on the property that I also use for gardening in. I'm trying to get in as much food as possible. I've always kind of been like that. And then I have the Dollar Tree stackables, blue, the cream color, and the terracotta. Hopefully, if you were in my live and you heard, my birthday is April the 4th, and I'm hoping that I get my very first stackable, or 2 stackables. That would be awesome. But yeah, and my son got me that for, I think, Mother's Day last year, and I just have trellises like that to keep the pups out. So I did a lot of cleanup and thought, let me do the video on the 1-year anniversary on how did I think this garden held up. If I can remember the size, which would be just this garden alone, I will post it down in the description. But I love you all, and I hope you follow along. If you're new here and you like the content here, maybe think about subscribing. But this is my brand new raised bed garden that I built last March. And it's now the 1-year anniversary, so I think it held up pretty well. I think I shocked myself. But I love you all. Like, subscribe, share, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye-bye, everyone.